Hey guys, welcome to the harbor, welcome to the studio. Today it's finally happening. Me in the studio, 12 hours, no distraction, no business stuff, except for these guys making a little bit of noise. But it shouldn't be that bad. It usually doesn't even reach the studio. I might need 2 or 3 more hours to finalize the mix of one of my upcoming releases, and then I will show you everything I did to it to get the most professional sound I'm able to pull off. It took a lot longer than expected. The day is almost over, but the song is finally all mixed and I'm really happy with it. You just heard it in the intro, A and B versions. A is the unmixed version, B is the mixed version. And here I already need to start with the first tip whenever it comes to mixing. It's all about the production, the sound selection, the arrangement, the musical bits and pieces of a song, how you play the notes. All of this is what makes a great record. Just the mixing itself is pointless. It doesn't matter that much. I'd even argue that the normal listener that anyways just listens to music on headphones and maybe their phone even, they won't recognize any difference. So it's the nerdy stuff that is necessary to convince other people in the industry, other DJs and producers to actually play your song, because they really listen for that kind of quality sound. But the normal people won't notice. And for pop songs or pop influenced songs, the songwriting is even way more important than the sound. For this track that is more into a progressive kind of club direction, the sound is actually important. So I bounced out every single track, 75 of them, out of the session where I produced everything. So that's just the audio, and I will just go through the bits and pieces that I corrected. The main issue was definitely kick and bass. That's usually always when there's a problem with the mixing, you first have to fix kick and bass. Once kick and bass are fine, everything else is easy, very easy. So yeah, really before heading over to the mixing stage, make sure everything else is fine, especially the sound design. A lot of people confuse sound design, sound selection with mixing. If they hear a song that sounds really epic and hits really hard and everything is nice, they think it's the mixing, but it's usually actually selecting the right kick, the right synthesizer, the right bass plays a huge role. But let's get started. By the way, everything you will hear is directly from the computer, so the original sound, you might have to use headphones or good speakers to even hear a difference. Yeah, let's maybe start with kick and bass. So first up right here, the kick drum. Let's loop up the main section. We got here the kick on its own. I actually replaced it. I transferred everything to this project, and I felt like the kick isn't working, so I just picked another one. Again, it's all about the sample selection. If it doesn't work, don't try to make it work and force it and change it too much. Just try and find something else that works. On the kick, I didn't change a lot, just cutting away the very low frequencies, a little bit gone around 5K, and boosting a little bit the very top end for that click sound. Let's listen to it with and without the EQ. Very subtle change. It's almost so subtle that it doesn't make a whole difference and isn't really needed, but if you listen to the entire song and you have over 70 tracks and you do 1% on every single track, it will add up and actually matter. Next up, I felt that the kick doesn't have a natural sounding click. It also didn't cut through. So I added a click. That click is just a kick drum, and I made sure to cut everything below 1400 Hertz. So whenever you EQ, just listen to it solo and then decide where to cut. all of these frequencies are really not needed because they're actually already covered by the main kick. So it's really just the top click kind of part. Next up, the second most important then is really the bass. Right here, I did actually quite a lot to the bass in terms of redistributing the frequencies. That's the bass line at the moment, and without the processing. The EQ setting is quite dramatic. Usually I would just opt for another bass, but here it kind of worked by EQing it like this. You can see that this frequency right here is like way too high. It doesn't really belong there. So I made sure to EQ it away and make sure that the lowest frequency, the one that is responsible for the bass part, the sub-bass section, the one that is right above the kick, has the right volume and sits nicely and works together with the kick. So again, the bass with and without the EQing. You can really see how the notes are shifted. The one right here around A is not needed, so I cued it away really hard and pushed the one that actually gives me the nice sub-frequencies. Again, you could have also just picked another bass, but make sure, like, if you look at the analyzer, that the bump between kick and bass has like the right ratio. So really kick, bass. Just check other music that is similar to yours or what you're aiming for, how they do it. For example, in trap, you would have a lot more sub bass and the kick actually being a lot smaller and quieter. So just try to copy that because these guys know what they're doing and it might help you to find mistakes. Then the next part is of course the main synthesizer. That one consists out of 3 layers. Main layer. Sounds a little thin on its own, so I added a second layer underneath. Plus a third layer to make it a bit more interesting. And then of course the automation is also what makes it interesting over time. But on the main sound, I EQ'd away a resonating frequency around 2K. Just sounds a lot cleaner without. So really when you're mixing, go through every single track and consider EQing it and consider, like, listen to it and think about where you hear like something resonating, something like a bell kind of sound, too low frequencies, and just get rid of them. And if there's a point where there's not enough, maybe not too much top end, then just add it. Like really start shaping the volume of certain frequencies to make the good ones shine and make the bad ones disappear. On the main sound, a little bit more sidechain. The original already had some. The Valvesk is like a distortion EQ unit. I added a tiny bit of it. Just to get like the saturation and like the crisp kind of stuff going. Don't exaggerate it, because something else actually helped me a lot, and that was adding attack. The sound sounds very soft without. And that attack kind of sound makes the song more aggressive and it fits better to the style. And then I also added a limiter. You could also use a compressor, but you can already see it in the waveform. Some notes are a lot quieter than others. And without the limiter, you can really hear them bouncing around. So by adding the limiter, all of them are pushed more to an equal volume. And then something else I tried out was a sample delay to make it wider. But at the end, I thought it's not needed, so I disabled it. And then what else? I think we got some hi-hats going on. I also did quite a lot of EQing on those. Also here we got resonating frequencies, really annoying ones. You can spot them in the analyzer, but you also, if you're experienced, hear that immediately. So without the EQ. This way you can make the head louder without it being too distracting, and really like the 6800 Hertz one and the 10,600 one. It's really, really obvious. Doesn't change the sound too much of the head, actually improves it. And I also did the same, I think, on the right. There it's even more obvious. It's like really a very, very annoying frequency, and that's the stuff you have to do without considering the mix. Just a soloed element, try to cut away the annoying stuff, boost the stuff that isn't there. If it isn't there, you can also add a tag. You can limit it to or compress it to make certain parts louder and bring them out in the mix. And I think that's basically it, because there's not much more playing during that kind of section of the song. The rest is like white noise, crash, effect kind of sounds. There it's just about like cutting the low end, but I already did that in the production, so all of the effect kind of parts are unprocessed here in the mixing session. Let's maybe open up the mixer. So there's not a lot that I did. Like you see, some of the tracks didn't change them at all, just adjusted the volume, and the main elements actually quite a lot of EQing. So that's basically already all I did to the production. Just a little bit of EQing, dynamic control, controlling the frequencies, making everything sit nice in there, listening to it carefully, A and B, comparing, and you should be able to get there. It's again just the last 10%. If you think, for example, the bass isn't fat enough, the main synthesizer doesn't work, you need to go back to the production stage, because that's where everything is happening. 90% is made in the production phase. Sound selection, shaping of sounds in the synthesizer. That's really the key to a good track. Mixing is just like getting everything in balance and check and making sure it sits right in the mix. But you need the right elements to make them sit right in the mix. I hope this kind of makes sense. Anyways, that's already it. If you're interested in free sounds and samples, I'll link them down below. And we'll see us tomorrow back again for another episode here in the studio, working probably on a new song. I think tomorrow I can share with you this amazing vocal song that I just got brand new. So good, but I'm at the very early stage, just still trying to figure out what kind of melodies to play.